My name's Cade Dennis of Merrimack, Massachusetts Boy Scout Troop 41, and I'm here to tell the story of a community that was recognizing and remembering the least among us, the souls who rest at the Almshouse Cemetery in West Newbury, Massachusetts.
Regarding the Almshouse Cemetery. So, Bob, do you want to talk about this?
Very few people know that the Poorhouse Cemetery or the Almshouse Cemetery is even there. What we'd like to do is clean it up. It's pretty well overgrown. There are some dead trees that are in it and all this other kind of stuff. But we're going to need the highway's help in some respects. Well, not so much to cut the brush, because I can do that. It's just hauling it off, putting it someplace besides throwing it over the stone wall into somebody else's property or town property. With the highway's help or something, once a year, maybe in the spring, we can go in there and just make sure it's all clean and kept up. And we'd like to put in another historic marker up there. We have money in our budget to do that. And we just think it's worth making sure it's preserved. And we'd like to put a historic preservation restriction on that piece of property also, to make sure that it never gets rebuilt or somebody built on or dug up.
Okay, all in favor?
Call the vote.
Aye.
Kemper, aye.
Parker, aye.
After I saw the Newburyport Daily News article about this, I contacted the West Newbury Historical Commission to see if the Almshouse Cemetery could be my Eagle Scout project. I've been a Boy Scout since I was 11 years old, and I've really liked learning about the values of being a Scout, and it's taught me the importance of being responsible and giving back to the community. This project seemed like a fit for me because I'm interested in preserving the history and the importance of those who came before us. When the commission invited me to the virtual meeting on March 5th, I offered to clean up the burial site, reconstruct the stone walls that surrounds the plot, and erect a sign to commemorate the cemetery.
On a bright mid-March morning, folks from the town's Department of Public Works came to the cemetery to do the heavy work, too dangerous for volunteers. They cut, cleared, and whisked away large downed trees, making the cemetery ready for Cade and his crew. On June 5th, Saturday, Cade and his family and friends and fellow scouts came to the cemetery and cleaned it up.
Looking over there for those rocks, those are different boundaries, but any rocks you find inside or next to the wall like these, see if you can put them on top of the wall just to make it, shore it up and make it look more, wally.
Okay. So if we pick up the sticks and branches from inside, where do we put them out here?
Just all right here.
Where do we start them high? Yeah, if you guys just want to come in here, I'll throw them out. I don't want anyone to get wet.
Probably start from that end and bring it over here. That way we have a big pile over here to just toss it over.
On Sunday, they finished spreading the leaves and installed the historic marker.
What are we searching for?
I think tools and things that
Oh,
you don't want to leave behind.
I got you. That's smart. That's a good idea.
Almshouses and their cemeteries had been long forgotten and then rediscovered as a result of historical research or excavation for construction projects. Recently, Salem, Massachusetts, erected a marker in honor of those who labored, died, and were buried at the town's almshouse. It was said at the time that although individuals' names may be lost to history, we can honor them. It's actually really important in terms of trying to remember people who were part of the community and marginalized. With impetus and money from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, West Newbury set about establishing a poorhouse or almshouse in 1837. This would have included a home for the indigent, whose numbers included not only paupers but also the disabled, the insane, those passing through, and others with nowhere else to go. In April of 1837, the town advertised for an almshouse master, always a married man whose wife did much of the work. Later that year, it purchased the farmstead belonging to Mary and Stephen Adams, which was located at the end of Archelaus Road. This became the Almshouse Complex, which included the almshouse, a town farm where inmates supposedly would support themselves, and, of course, a potter's field, the Almshouse Cemetery. In 1887, the town spent $4,359.03 for a new almshouse, which still stands as a private home. Initially, the Historical Commission could find no town data about the almshouse inmates. We began our research with census data and Susan Follansbee's book about West Newbury cemeteries. A foray into the town office's basement unearthed some almshouse records.
We're looking for potential burials in the Almshouse Cemetery.
Nate and his uncle also researched deaths at the almshouse.
Even with the information the Historical Commission and Kate and his uncle put together, there's much we don't know about burials at the Almshouse Cemetery. Were paupers other than those who died at the almshouse buried there? How many were buried there between the 1870s, when the available almshouse records end, and the early 1900s, when the almshouse fell into disuse? In most cases, the records do not say where inmates, or for that matter, other town residents were interred. We found 10 individuals whose records show an almshouse burial. That list includes Sarah Chase, widow of Nathan, died at the almshouse on February 3, 1850. She was 98 years old. Almshouse master Oliver Brown was her undertaker. William Burrell, widower of Sarah, who had died at the almshouse in 1847, died there on December 2, 1855. He was about 92 years old. He had been a laborer, but became a pauper in the last decade or so of his life. The death registry says he is buried at the Almshouse Cemetery. Widow Hannah England died of paralysis at the almshouse at age 82 on January 10, 1857. She is buried at the Almshouse Cemetery according to the Register of Deaths. Hillman Texbury, a farmer with a wife and daughter, died of general debility at the almshouse on March 26, 1859. He was 44 years old. The death registry identifies the Almshouse Cemetery as his burial place. Miss Anna Woodman, 75, died of cancer at the almshouse on June 23, 1859. According to the death register, she is buried at the Almshouse Cemetery. Thomas Tewksbury, once a shoemaker, died of liver disease at the almshouse on December 15, 1859, at the age 68. Death records set his burial place as the Almshouse Cemetery. Elizabeth M. Tewksbury, unmarried, died of consumption at the Almshouse on June 27, 1866, at age 44. She was the daughter of Thomas and sister of Hillman Texbury, both of whom died and were buried at the Almshouse in 1859. Almshouse master Daniel P. Nelson was her undertaker. Adolphus Sabine Noyes, 26, died at the Almshouse on July 23, 1866. A shoemaker, he died of heart disease. Daniel P. Nelson, the Almshouse master, served as undertaker. Stephen Ordway, 78, died of old age on April 16, 1873, at the Almshouse. He had been a mariner. Rebecca Chase Ordway, who died at the Almshouse in 1849, was his mother. Baby Adeline Ordway, who died at age 4.5 months in 1852 at the Almshouse, was his granddaughter. His undertaker was Daniel P. Nelson, the Almshouse master. Daniel W. Bailey, unmarried and once a farmer, died at the age of 84 of epileptic convulsions at the Almshouse on July 3, 1879. West Newbury's 1881 annual town report itemized an 1879 almshouse expense of $16 for a coffin and robe for his interment. We assume the remaining 24 inmates known to have died at the Almshouse with no other recorded burial place remain there in the cemetery. Most of these arrived at the Almshouse debilitated by illness or old age. Over half of them were 60 or older when they died.
No gravestones were found at the Almshouse Cemetery, but in 2021, West Newbury resolved to remember these names, their final resting places, recognized and preserved.